Well, I hope everyone had a Merry Christmas. There was a trend going around this Christmas season with families posting photos of themselves spreading the holiday cheer, brandishing guns, in most cases, assault rifles. America has a very unhealthy obsession with firearms. We have more firearms in this country than we do people, and we are chiefly responsible for those firearms being spread all across the world. Now, this goes back, of course, to the Cold War when the US and the Soviet Union were just spreading their weapons all over the place, trying to get influence everywhere and get their foothold to gain power. But in the case of what's going on in the country right now, it's not about that anymore. It's apparently about getting ready for a new civil war, according to many MAGA cultists and Trump supporters out there who aren't a member of MAGA, but still believe that a civil war is imminent. I wonder why they think that. You know, trying to get as many weapons as you want, or as you can rather, it really highlights that you have an unhealthy obsession with weapons. Now, one of the common jokes that's thrown around out there, and I've used this as well, is that people who buy big guns are trying to compensate for something small. You know, it's tongue in cheek and it's definitely facetious, but I think in some ways it's true, but more true to the point of someone feeling their own insecurity. Okay, hence why they get a gun, because they're like, oh, I feel so unsafe without a gun. Now I got to get a gun to protect myself and my family. I feel more secure. Well, look, most fatal shootings tend to happen in the home, and normally it's done by a family member. I mean, that's how children get guns and shoot themselves. Who wants to live in a place or around people who are just loaded with an arsenal that could take out a small army? That's not a welcoming sign. That's basically saying, stay the hell away from me, I'll blow your head off if you come on my property kind of thing. And this is an attitude that is based in a very primitive fear of loss. A fear of loss like, I've got what I have, I cherish what I have, I don't know if any more of it's out there, so I don't want anybody else to have their share of it too, even though some of it reproduces in nature, like food, for example. And also that homes, for example, can be rebuilt, cars can be repaired, things like that. It's not worth taking somebody's life over. And certainly having a weapon in your hands doesn't make you macho, it doesn't make you a man, it doesn't make you a patriot or a real soldier. All right? Just brandishing a weapon because you believe it's your right to have one because it's in the Constitution, that just makes you a sycophantic idiot. What are you going to do with that arsenal? I mean, why do you think you need it? Who are you afraid of? If you hunt for sport, you don't need an M60 or an AR-15 to go hunting for deer or whatever it is. But nowadays they say, nah, we're hunting liberals. Okay, so they want the Civil War to be between the right and the left, conservatives and liberals. And this is part of the ideological problem here because they see everybody who disagrees with them as a lib, hence owning the libs, right? Well, guys, which libs do you want to own? Because there's liberals and there's libertarians. Get your story straight here. I mean, we all know what you really mean, but I'm just kind of trolling them at this point. But the fact that we swim in as many guns as, I mean, America swims in guns like Scrooge McDuck swims in a money bin. And that's not a good thing. Those things are not designed to bring happiness. They're not designed to be helpful in any way. They're designed to kill. So why is it that certain people think they have to have these guns and they have to be ready to kill when there's honestly no real threat? Oh, yeah. We got QD immigrants, college borders wide open. Listen, liberals, and I'm a progressive, not a liberal. There is a big difference. Liberals do not support open borders. Libertarians support open borders. And libertarians typically run with Republicans. And it's the Republicans who are picking up these guns and wanting to kill black and brown people who come to the border. And not only that, now they want to go patrolling the streets killing anyone and everyone that they view as ideologically different from them. Because somehow the left, the commies, the big bad, dead bodies everywhere. And there's a segment coming up on what socialism actually means today, by the way, so stay tuned for that. But this notion of this enemy that they have to kill is ridiculous. It's completely ridiculous. There's no threat. The left doesn't want a war. So the fact that the right thinks that the civil war is imminent, oh my God, the left doesn't want to pick up a gun and shoot anybody. So that means that if the right were to do it, the left would just get slaughtered. It would be a genocide, not a war. So they obviously didn't think this through. They just want to feel heroic. They want to feel patriotic. They want to feel like they're serving their country. They want to feel like they are representing a just cause of some kind. But this is not a just cause. It's completely imaginary. And it's based on lies and misinformation. So is the fact that, okay, we got to have guns because they're in the Constitution, It's American to have a gun. Okay, well, let's talk about bearing arms for a second. We have just generally accepted in this country that bearing arms just means having a gun. Well, no. Putting up your dukes is bearing arms. A baseball bat to somebody's head is bearing arms. A knife in your hand is a weapon. That's bearing arms. Just having a staff in your hand to wield and block at stuff, that's bearing arms. A shield where you knock people around with it or strike them with it sometimes, that's bearing arms. To kind of take things back a little bit, a sling and a club in the caveman days was considered bearing arms, A sword and a shield in medieval times was bearing arms. And when you got to the colonial era, it was firearms. And ever since then, everybody has just accepted keeping and bearing arms as owning a gun. But what happens when we evolve past this type of gun? Then the meaning of bearing arms is going to take on another dimension, really. But it's nothing to be happy about. It's nothing to be proud of. It's not something that Americans actually need. Who's going to come over here and invade and take over our problems? And even if they did, we are one of the hardest countries to invade, even without the guns in our hands. Now, having said that, it's also a fact that people die every year. Thousands of people die every year from gun violence in this country. That number drops dramatically, almost to, relatively speaking, to zero in other developed countries. Now, you do have some, like you have a few hundred a year in Canada. You've got, in the 100 or so in other countries, wherever you are. But, guns do not present a welcoming image of a country. We say this is the best country in the world. We say that the land of opportunity and America and all that stuff. But in a country where guns outnumber people, and that potential is anybody could have a gun and they could pick it up and shoot you at any time for whatever reason, that's not exactly a welcoming sight, is it? Or a pleasant thought. So I really think that America needs to rethink its stance on guns. But I also think we need to treat gun ownership like driving. Okay? Probably should have gotten to this point earlier, but, I just woke up, so it is what it is. But we should treat gun ownership like driving in the sense that we need to have everybody who owns a gun trained on them, how to use them, when to use them, when not to use them, the laws and consequences affiliated with them, how to stow them, how to take them apart, how to put them back together, how to clean them, you get it. Everything you need to know about guns, you should know before you buy one. You have to be trained on it as well. I mean, you could take examples from Israel and Switzerland, where military service is mandatory. So while they have a huge number of guns in those countries as well, the death rate by gun violence, at least at the civilian level, is relatively non-existent. And that's because they're better trained. They understand the responsibility that comes with owning a weapon. Now, you do have many in this country who have that kind of training and responsibility with guns as well. But you also have a lot of yahoos who just want to go out there, grab a gun, and kill their political enemies, which is not acceptable. And it's also antithetical to democracy. And it's saying to other people, you can't have freedom and liberty in the pursuit of happiness. Only we, the righteous people, can. But you know what? If that's going to be the attitude moving forward for this country, we may as well just tear down the Statue of Liberty. We may as well rip up the Constitution. We may as well destroy the Bill of Rights, because it means nothing if every time somebody who looks different, has a different faith, has a different set of goals and values, is going to come to our shores seeking a better life. The fact that you just want to shove a gun in their face and blow their head off because they don't look like you and they don't believe what you believe, you don't believe in freedom and liberty at all. You just believe in a one-track minded society, how you think. And that's not healthy. That is not indicative of a prosperous society. It is a dystopian society. So we really need to rethink our stance on guns. It's going to take a long time before we get to the point where we can actually make any meaningful change. But one point I want to end on here, and that is that gun owners in this country, the majority of them, want sensible gun reform. The grand total of this country that wants gun reform is 97%. Not Republicans, not Democrats, not independents, not Greens, not Libertarians, not Democratic Socialists. Everybody. Every American in this country, 97%, wants sensible gun legislation passed to keep our streets safe and our children safe so they don't have to go through, active shooter drills at school. This didn't used to be a regular thing. And unless we address the systemic issue, which of course is capitalism, then this is only going to get worse. And all our lives are going to be in danger. This is not a safe place to have a family in nowadays. We need to address the issue of guns to make this place safe for everybody.